Welcome to this episode of our program Arab Affairs. As usual, we will be discussing an important Arab file, and today we'll be speaking about the escalation in the Palestinian occupied territories. Israeli Prime Minister has already ordered the mobilization of police and army reserves after some of the separate attacks killed 3 people, and Italian tourists, including an Italian tourist, in the West Bank and Tel Aviv. This was the latest escalation in violence that was preceded by lots and lots of escalation from the Israeli side. First, breaking into the Al-Aqsa Mosque, attacking and violent attacks inside Al-Quds, also spreading forces in some of the Palestinian cities, and the latest of which was the attacks the attacks in Gaza and Lebanon after the rocket fires from both areas. The Lebanese army has said it has found and dismantled a multiple rocket launcher in an olive grove in the Marga Ayoun area near the border, still loaded with 6 primed rockets. Violence has been escalating in the Palestinian occupied territories. It was preceded by a long time, or rather weeks, of protests by Israelis internally, and no response, or rather negative response from Israel. All this will be speaking in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi met with his Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as both hailed the close, historic and remarkable ties between two nations. This came during President el-Sisi's visit to Jeddah, where he was received by the Saudi Crown Prince at the airport upon his arrival. During the meeting, President Sisi and Prince Mohammed highlighted the importance of the visit and developing the brotherly bilateral relations. The two Arab leaders also highlighted their keenness on boosting joint cooperation in all fields for the best interest of both nations. This is in addition to continuing coordination and consultation on regional and international files of mutual. Sisi expressed gratitude for the warm welcome he had received upon arriving in the kingdom by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The president also highlighted the deep and strong bilateral relations between the two nations. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi stressed Egypt's keenness to continue boosting cooperation with Iraq in various fields as on all. This came to President Sisi's with Speaker of the Iraqi Parliament Mohammed al-Halbousi. El-Sisi stressed the distinguished Egyptian-Iraqi relations and asked al-Halbousi to convey his greetings to Iraqi President and Prime Minister. The United States carried out a military operation that killed a senior Daesh terrorist group leader in Syria on Monday. The U.S. Central Command made the announcement on Tuesday. The statement said that Khalid Ayed Ahmed al-Jabouri was responsible for planning Daesh attacks in Europe and developed the leadership structure for the terrorist group. The Daesh terrorist group controlled parts of Iraq and Syria at the peak of its power in 2014 before being beaten back in both countries. The U.S. Central Command said no civilians were killed or injured in this strike, adding that the terrorist group continues to represent a threat to the region and beyond. A UN report said in February that the Daesh terrorist group is estimated to have 5,000 to 7,000 members and supporters spread between Syria and Iraq. 5 Syrian soldiers were wounded in the latest Israeli airstrike on Syria, with Iran saying 2 Revolutionary Guards officers died in area attacks. During more than a decade of civil war in Syria, Israel has launched hundreds of airstrikes on Syrian territory. primarily targeting Iran-backed forces and Lebanese Hezbollah fighters, as well as Syrian army positions. The strike on Sunday near the western Syrian city of Hims was Israel's third in recent days after the capital Damascus was targeted on the nights of March 30th and 31st, according to state news agency SANA. SANA said that Syria's air defense intercepted several missiles, but 5 soldiers were wounded and some material damage was reported.
Right, welcome back, and back to our topic and the escalation in the Palestinian occupied territories. Despite appeals for restraints, violence has surged since the Israeli police clashed with Palestinians inside Al-Aqsa Mosque, and Israel bombarding both Gaza and Lebanon following rockets by the Palestinian factions. The escalation inside the Palestinian occupied lands, and we have with us over the phone Mr. Ramzi Khouri, political analyst and journalist. Good afternoon to you. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Ramzi, would you please let us know more about the scene inside the Palestinian occupied territories and your reading to such escalation or repetitive escalation?
The situation right now is pretty volatile. Obviously, we need to look at the starting point. Since the beginning of this year, or if you like, since the election of the government, that includes extreme right-wingers such as Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, the government has, the Israeli occupation forces have been attacking Palestinians relentlessly in villages and with Al-Aqsa Mosque. With the start of Ramadan, the Israeli occupation forces were clamping hard on the Palestinian worshippers who have been trying to get to Jerusalem. Those who have reached the Al-Aqsa Mosque, most Palestinians were not allowed. And this has resulted in clashes, and hundreds of Palestinians arrested, elderly people attacked inside of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And Israel knows very well that these actions are going to force the Palestinians to erupt. Just to put things in perspective, last year Israel killed 171 Palestinians. We are now in April and we're pretty close to that number already. So this gives you an idea on how aggressive this government is since the beginning of the year. And now, just also to put things in perspective, inside of Israel, there is a major Israeli movement against this government because this government is trying to rip the higher court of justice from its powers and give these powers to the parliament, where Netanyahu and his cabinet has a majority. Now, to the Israelis who have erupted in major demonstrations unseen before in the history of Israel, since it was created on Palestinian land in 1948. These demonstrations are capable of taking down this government. The only thing that unites the Israeli people is if there is an attack from outside. The Israelis need an enemy they would rally together in combating.
Mr. Ramzi,
Yes.
if I may take this point and raise it clearly, because the Israeli forces have been, there have been some of the attacks conducted on Syria from one front, on Lebanon, and in the Palestinian occupied territories. But in fact, the Israelis, particularly in the areas of Gaza and Lebanon, they have targeted only Hamas positions, avoiding the Hezbollah. How is that? I mean here, how is Israel targeting several Arab entities at the same time? And what does this mean? What do they want? Why such an escalation and spread in escalation this time?
Well, let's put Syria aside, because Israel has been attacking Syria all throughout the year, last year and this year. Only a few days back, they did an attack very close to Damascus and killed Iranian consultants and advisors. So let's put Syria aside. But the attacks, well, first of all, the rockets that came out of Lebanon and hit Israel are rockets that were fired by the Palestinian resistance, not by Hezbollah. Israel does not need to get into a war with Hezbollah for one reason. Hezbollah can shower Israel with long-range missiles that can hit Tel Aviv, that can, and Hezbollah missiles would be extremely accurate. So Hezbollah may decide to take out the port. Hezbollah may decide to take out industrial plants or military positions. And therefore, Israel does not need at all to get into a war with Hezbollah right this moment. But Israel also needs to have an enemy. And the easiest enemy to have is the Palestinians, of course. The Palestinians who are a sitting duck in front of Israel. It is so easy to attack them. Or even if in Lebanon. At the attacks that Israel did in Lebanon, they are limited because they don't want to instigate a war with Hezbollah. They don't want to force Hezbollah to answer back. So they're being extremely careful on that front. But if you allow me, if you allow me to go back to the point of the demonstrations, and let me tell you why. It's not just the civilians, and in Israel there are no civilians. Every single Israeli citizen is actually, whether male or female, are military, and they are all, they all can be called to go to war, by the way, so just to make things clear. So in Israel, there is no such thing as civilians. But it's also the military who are serving in the military today. These people have also revolted against this government. And this is extremely dangerous for the security of Israel. If all of these so-called civilians who are supposedly ready to also go to war are demonstrating against the government, soldiers serving inside of the military are also revolting against the government, then the only way they can unify them is to have a war. And they don't want to have an expensive war because that will make the Israelis very angry. The best thing to do is to attack the Palestinians, and the Palestinians today will retaliate. They don't have a choice. They retaliated. The first thing that Israel attacked Gaza, if you look at what happened, Hamas started attacking the Israeli settlements that are close to Gaza. They didn't attack Tel Aviv. They didn't attack the airport like what happened in the last clashes. But they also wanted to have a certain amount of restraint. Why is the restraint important? Because they don't want to save Netanyahu in this government. They don't want to save this fascist government that has been killing Palestinians by bullet. And but they have to also answer back. They cannot just sit there and allow them to destroy Gaza and whatever without any answer. So there has to be a certain amount of balance, and this is exactly what the Palestinians are doing today. The Palestinians can still shower Israel with more missiles out of Lebanon, if need be. If Netanyahu wants to take this further, then the Palestinians have no choice, and we will see more rockets flying out of Gaza, maybe rockets that can reach the outskirts of Tel Aviv. There will be rockets flying out of Lebanon, and these created a lot of damage. Over 100 rockets flew out of Lebanon on Israel. A gas station was destroyed, a factory was destroyed. The Israelis were forced to go into bunkers. So basically, more of this can happen. If it happens, then Israel will hit harder, and we will see a very volatile situation coming our way.
If I may ask about the relevance between this escalation and you said respectively the protests that were ongoing for domestic affairs in Israel because of the judiciary plans, or Netanyahu or the Israeli Prime Minister's plans towards the judiciary powers. If I may ask here, escalation in the Palestinian-occupied territories have been ongoing even before those plans, and to an extent that there has been some calls for intifada inside the occupied territories, particularly Al-Quds. So how do you view that? How do you view the escalation of matters inside the Palestinian territories from this perspective?
Well, we already see a situation that is very close to an intifada inside of the Palestinian territories, because Israel is attacking them. Israel is attacking the Palestinian territories on a daily basis, and therefore the Palestinians are answering back. So we already see that. I want to note something, if you allow me. When Netanyahu gives a fascist like Ben Gvir, he's a criminal indicted by Israeli courts as a terrorist. This is his designation by Israeli courts. When he gives him Minister of Interior in charge of all of the security forces of Israel, he is giving him a license to kill. This is not a sane person who can actually be a proper Minister of Interior. This is a person who would use the security forces in order to kill Palestinians or displace them, or prohibit them from praying in Al-Aqsa Mosque, or he would use the security forces to bring in the settlers into Al-Aqsa Mosque to do their prayers, as he's been trying to, and wanting to, and declaring that he will do. And by doing that, what Netanyahu is doing, he is instigating an intifada. The Palestinians are not going to sit down and watch Ben Gvir achieve all of his goals. That's not going to happen. The Palestinians will revolt. They don't have a choice. They will revolt, and they will take it to the limits. in protection of their sacred places, Al-Aqsa Mosque and other sacred places, but also in protection of their own lives. This Ben Gvir guy has been killing Palestinians by the dozens. Every day there are Palestinians, martyrs, who are falling on a daily basis. Daily basis. So where is this all going? It is not going in a picture. The other thing I want to say, if you allow me now. Yesterday, the Russian foreign minister came out and said that they have been trying to convene the quartet in order to try to control the situation and to push the Israelis to sit with the Palestinians in order to go back onto the peace track. However, the United States of America has not allowed the quartet to convene. Only yesterday, the Security Council came out with a statement that condemns Israel's attacks on Al-Aqsa Mosque and the worshippers at Al-Aqsa Mosque. But the United States, again, decided not to allow the statement to be published. Yet the United States comes out and says that they are very concerned about what is going on with Al-Aqsa Mosque. If they are not allowing the United Nations to come out with a statement, they are concerned, and as if a statement of the United Nations is going to be accepted by Israel and Israel is going to abide by it. Israel has not abided by any of the Security Council resolutions of Palestine. Yet the Americans are protecting them in a way that allows Netanyahu to continue. Why? He feels that his back is secure. He feels that he will get away with murder. This is exactly what he's doing. He's doing murder. And he's getting away with it. And this is a problem. This is a very big problem. And the United States of America needs to reconsider this carte blanche, the green light, that it has given every single Israeli government. This is a different kind of government. This is a government that has Ben Gvir and Smotrich in it. Smotrich, who doesn't even believe that there is a Palestinian people. Smotrich who thinks that Israel and is Palestine and Jordan. The United States cannot give that carte blanche anymore because the United States is now instigating not just another intifada. I'm not sure how long can Arab states also sit there watching the Palestinians get slaughtered without doing anything.
With all respect, it's not.
The United States can't stop it.
Let me here take some of mixed reactions.
I'm sorry, I lost the voice now. The voice is way too low.
Hello.
Hello, I need.
Do you hear me?
Is way too low.
Do you hear me? Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, it is a little bit better.
Right. So let me here take some of the mixed reactions towards the issue. We've seen China, for an instance, coming out and calling on the UN Security Council to.
I'm so sorry, ma'am. I can't hear the question now.
Again, we are seeing mixed reactions from the international community. So, for an instance, we have seen China calling for an urgent UN Security Council over the escalation in the Palestinian territories, and that is very new, for an instant. We have seen an interference, as you said, by the Russian president himself, and whose country is the rotatory president of the UN Security Council this year. We have seen self-restraint calls by the European and the US sides. And definitely we've seen condemnations from the Arab side. However, if I may ask you about what is needed from the international community, since we're seeing also the resistance ineffective.
Well, the international community is so keen on slamming sanctions on anybody who deals with Russia against Ukraine. And these double standards cannot continue. How could you be standing there demanding that the whole world stand against Russia on behalf of Ukraine when Europe has done absolutely nothing in regards to what's going on in Palestine with the Israelis? So the Europeans are just sitting there and making statements. And these statements are worth nothing, not to the Palestinians and not to the cause of peace. Israel is not going to stop its actions without real pressure. Real pressure would require action. First of all, America cannot continue to veto even the meaningless statements that may come out from here and there in the UN or elsewhere. And Europe cannot continue to justify that they accept apartheid in Israel, they accept fascism in the government of Israel, and they're still willing to deal with it. Smotrich, when he showed the map of Palestine and Jordan and called it Israel, he was in Paris. He was in Paris. Why would the French government welcome a fascist like Smotrich to come and make speeches in Paris? They need to start taking action. They need to sanction these Israeli radicals who are taking the whole region to the abyss. They need to take action. They cannot continue issuing statements. They've been issuing statements since 1948. Yet, if anybody is seen to be in support of Russia because of the Russia-Ukraine war, then they slap them with sanctions and a huge amount of pressure, and these double standards can no longer continue. And it has become a farce worldwide. People watching this do not get it. It is a farce. It doesn't make sense anymore. So this is an opportunity for all of them to reassess and readjust their policies, and to stop making statements but take actions instead. If Israel feels that they will lose something, Israel will reconsider what it's doing. They know that they'll get away with murder. They know it. And this is unfair. At the end of the day, this is also not to the benefit of Europe or the United States of America that is trying to sell all of these values. These values are worth nothing anymore. They are worth nothing anymore. You cannot talk about freedom and justice and equality when you are supporting apartheid. You can no longer do that. It doesn't work anymore.
Indeed. So I guess remains to be seen how will matters settle in the Palestinian occupied territories. Up till this minute, the scene is so boiled, and Mr. Ramzi Khouri, Palestinian journalist and analyst, we thank you so much for being with us and for your input here. I guess that remains to be seen what will be ongoing at this upcoming stage. Remains to be seen what will be the international community's response towards the escalation, the existing escalation. And before we leave you here, let's take this report. And next Saturday would be another important Arab file. Until then, goodbye.
Israel's occupation military hit sites in Lebanon and Gaza on Friday over alleged rocket attacks it blamed on Hamas as tensions following the occupation police raid this week on Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem threatened to spiral out of control. Loud blasts struck different areas of Gaza as the occupation authority said its jets hit 10 targets, including tunnels and weapons manufacturing and development sites of Hamas, which controls the blockaded southern coastal strip. These strikes came in response to alleged rocket attacks from Lebanon towards northern Israeli areas, which Israel occupation officials blamed on Hamas, saying 34 rockets were launched from Lebanon. It was the biggest such attack since 2006, when the Israeli occupation authority fought a war with the Lebanese Hezbollah movement. The strikes came amid an escalating confrontation over Israeli occupation police raids at Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in Jerusalem during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Lebanon's Prime Minister Najib Mikati issued a statement condemning any military operations that threatened regional stability. UNIFIL, the UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon, said it had been in contact with the parties and urged them to hold their actions to avoid further escalation. Al-Aqsa compound has long been a flashpoint for tensions.